I want to talk about what's happening in Parliament or not happening in Parliament first, Mr. Tewari. The Congress party insists that Mr. Pradhan has to step down for any sort of business to function in the House. The government is saying, let's have the debate first and then we will take up your other demands. They're saying the Congress and the opposition are walking away from a debate. Why?
Well, I think the position of the Indian National Congress and the rest of the opposition is very clear, that Mr. Dharmendra Pradhan has to resign. And the issue, unfortunately, has now moved beyond the systemic problems plaguing India's education system and the malady of paper leaks, which has become endemic in the last 12 years. And the issue really is the brutality with which students were not only lathi charged, but pellet guns were used against them. They were subjected to the most inhuman and the most vile treatment possible. And this is not how you deal with protest, and especially young people in a democracy. After all, what were they demanding? Their demand was that there have been endemic paper leaks over the past 12 years. So therefore, somebody has to take responsibility. Somebody has to be accountable for it. Rather than engaging with them in a dialogue, you completely and absolutely brutalize them. Use the worst kind of violence or state of repression which can be inflicted or perpetrated on young people. And when it flared up and spontaneous protests started happening all across the country, from Kanyakumari all the way to Kashmir, then you try and extend an olive branch. No, it's not going to work. Somebody has to take responsibility for the brutality which was perpetrated on those students. The education minister has to go. Those kids have been protesting for the past 25 days. Nobody reached out to them. It's only when your ham-handedness backfired on you and backfired and recoiled in a way that you had not contemplated, that suddenly you're scrambling for cover.
I'm asking a question as to what gives now if the students are refusing to engage with the government.
The resignation of Dharmendra Pradhan gives. That's a condition precedent now. There's nothing else which gives. You see, as I was earlier pointing out, this discussion could have taken place on Monday itself. But you chose to use the most heavy-handed and repressive techniques which were available to you. And the reports which are now coming out of use of pellet guns, were those kids actually indulging in any activity which was against the sovereignty and integrity of the nation? And as someone who had led the National Students' Union of India at the national level for 5 long years, and perhaps have been the only Asian who was president of the International Union of Students, I've seen this script play itself out many times. Student movements cannot be repressed with heavy-handedness. And so, that's why you have young people all across the country now rallying against this brutality.
So you're saying...
Therefore, government needs to realize the gravity of the situation. Government needs to ensure that the minister charged with the remit of actually shepherding or superintending India's education system needs to step down. And therefore, after that, there will be a discussion on the systemic problems which are plaguing the Indian education system.
So you're saying this will only resolve, the students will only be satisfied if the education minister resigns and somebody else is put in his place. But what about systemic reforms? I mean, is it enough if just one person at the head of the ministry changes? Will the paper leaks then stop?
Well, there is something called political accountability in a democracy, which unfortunately you guys have also forgotten in the past 12 years. The buck stops somewhere, and the buck stops with the political executive. So therefore, to merely rubbish it and, dismiss it saying that, oh, what will happen if one minister steps down? I'm sorry. The principle of accountability is the sine qua non of any democratic dispensation, and that accountability begins at the top. And in this particular instance, it begins with the education minister, and that has been the demand now for a very, very long period of time.
one of the things, and you can't brush this under the carpet, is that there has been lumpen elements as part of these crowds, as part of these student protesters who have attacked other students, they have attacked cops, and they have attacked members of the media as well. I mean,
Well,
would you not be concerned about that?
I'm sorry. As someone who has seen protest movements in this country now for 45 years, this is the oldest trick in the book to try and tar everybody with a black brush. I would urge you, stop doing this, balance out your coverage, make it more objective, start telling all sides of the story, because it actually pains me to see as to how mainstream media today has zero credibility in the eyes of people.
No, but what about the violence,
Lord
Mr. Tewari? I mean, shouldn't you say at least a word condemning the violence against everyone, against the students, against the cops, against the journalists? Surely a lawyer like you should not be condoning that.
Well, in the sense that the Delhi High Court is seized of the matter. I think it's currently hearing a public interest litigation in this regard. And so therefore, responsibility for violence will be fixed by a constitutional court. Suffice to say that when the students were sitting there for 25 days, if you would have chosen to engage with them, they would not have been compelled to actually march to Parliament. And then what happened on that particular day? Anybody who goes and sees the kind of content which is now viral on social media would automatically and reasonably conclude as to who the perpetrators of the violence were.
Okay, can I also ask you, as I'm winding down this conversation, and you've promised that you'll come back whenever Parliament resumes for the proposal that you've moved on the... Okay, let me take that promise from you as I come to the concluding part of this interview. So here's the thing, and I'm asking you this also as an MP from Punjab. Is there a division now in the India alliance, particularly between the Congress party and the Aam Aadmi party? Because the day Mr. Gandhi protested outside the Prime Minister's residence, the first people to oppose that and, call it sour grapes or whatever, were the Aam Aadmi party. They're saying you're non-serious about it.
Well, again, you're trying to obfuscate and deflect. I urged you at the beginning of the program to try and appreciate the gravity and the sensitivity of the situation, which has led to spontaneous student protests erupting all across the country. Try and understand that you're dealing with an extremely agitated generation. This is the time for the government to walk the extra mile, to try and engage with the students. And if their precondition is that the education minister should go, I do not think that if you weigh the equities, the resignation of one minister is more important than thousands and thousands of people, young people, who are the future of India, to be on the streets.
Okay. All right. Manish Tewari, we'll leave it at that. Thank you very much. Catch you again soon when Parliament resumes. Thank you.